Or do you let a character develop because of the way the stories unfold and you understand who he is by that development?
That's certainly true, that the characters are defined by how they act in the given circumstances, but I have to say, we had a notion for who Jack Bauer would be. The idea that he was flawed was certainly in there, but Kiefer came in and just inhabited that character and just took it, made it so believable. I mean, from our point of view, we're pushing the envelope all the time as writers and trying to put them in situations that are, maybe if you describe them objectively, you would say, wow, that's very unlikely, or that's very, you know. Yeah. It never feels that way when you watch Kiefer being Jack Bauer. Yeah. It feels real, and that's been the key to the whole show.
Yeah, this is exactly where I want to go, which is the notion of the kinds of debates that go on among the three of you, having to do with what you're going to show to America. And I mean, and what kind of feedback are you getting from the network saying, why did you have to kill off such a great character? Or why are you giving that character as much? Give me a sense of...
Well, the first big one we ever had was the death of my wife. And I just felt very strongly that you can't have an audience go with you and be faithful to you for 23 episodes in this hope that you are going to save your daughter and your wife and the president and kill your wife. And you were absolutely so, I mean, like Jack Bauer, he was so convinced and committed to that he was right about that.
That she had to die.
It wasn't any intellectual thought. It was the idea that if Jack saved the day and Jack was the great hero and it was a big happy ending at the end of this thing, that's not what our show felt like for 23 episodes. All of a sudden it would have become a different show. Right. And we had to just do another episode with another, you know, piece of irony attached to it and another dark, you know, false bottom beneath the story that we were telling. And that's how we just knew it was right, and we knew it in our bones.
They knew it was right. I absolutely believed they were going to turn on us for it, and I remember saying, you know, you always say those kind of brilliant things. Well, I want to go on record as saying that I think this is a terrible mistake.
Is that what you said?
And so now I'm on record for being the only guy who is a moron to not realize that that's what really took our show, because even all of the letters and kind of internet commentary that we got, they would start off, we can't believe you took Terry away. We can't believe you let her die. We can't believe you did this in the show. And at the very end, as a coda, was always, thank you so much for doing it. It threw me off so much.
Because I love your show. For all the reasons you said.
It was, yes, it was unexpected. It was not pat. It was not trite. It was true to form, to everything that we had done building up to that point. And as much as it hurt and bothered people that were invested in the show as an audience, the reaction that we got from them, I was obviously very surprised by. You were not, and I can now go on record and say I was wrong.
You were wrong. All right. Have there been other times in which you were wrong?
We'll never know.
Right. There were 2 times in 4 years where the network asked us to change something in the show. In the pilot, which aired about a week after 9/11, we had a shot of a plane exploding, and they asked us to lose that. And this year, they asked us not to have the president be killed in the downing of Air Force One. Apart from that, they have given us license to have Jack behead people, torture people, you know, every sort of calamity you can imagine.
But do you get protestations about that, the fact that Jack engages in torture for some in his own?
Not from the network. I think after probably midway through season 2, as the show started to really pick up traction with an audience and they saw the kinds of things we were doing, which the torture aspect of the show really started in season 2.
Right.
The show was really a different animal from season 1 to season 2 because of 9/11.
How was it a different animal?
We were influenced in season 1 by movies, by 3 Days of the Condor, by Day of the Jackal. We were influenced in season 2 and every season hence from real events. We were playing in the real world now, and it wasn't.
And you came out of La Femme Nikita, did you not?
Right, which was Bob and I both did La Femme Nikita, which was an international anti-terrorist show, but again, very almost science fiction-y compared to what
It was very stylized and very unreal.
But 9/11 made it sure. You had to do what after 9/11? I mean, it stood there as a central, as the president says, you know, it's defined my presidency, and you're saying, as a television show that was dealing with international strategic issues and terrorism, by definition, you had to take cognizance.
I think we had to have the stakes on our show be just as high as they are in real life. I think we had to have the choices that Jack Bauer and the President and other characters face be just as excruciating as they are in real life. And I think we had to have at least some of the consequences be as horrific and painful for the characters on our show as they are in real life. You can say you shouldn't do a show about terrorism, but I don't think you can say you should do a show about terrorism but pull your punches. It has to be as awful as the real thing.
And torture with respect to that, and the notion of, breaking a guy's...
Shooting someone's knee out, all of those different things.
Shooting your own colleague in the back of the head.
Yeah, again, as much as the show, and I really say this, and I met this one gentleman who worked actually for the CIA and actually worked in this area, and he made a joke to me about, his mother once had told him he should be more like Jack Bauer, and I immediately said, I'm really sorry. This is not what I do. I'm an actor, and this is a television show. And as much as we deal with potential situations, and we deal with the idea of terrorism in a very real way, obviously with the time format and the scenarios that we're dealing with, there is still a very large fantastical quality to our show. And I think that that's incredibly important to remember and understand. When dealing with the American Muslim community, we did a PSA. I was thrilled to do that PSA. I believe very strongly what I said in that PSA, which is not to confuse what is a television show and the reality of what is happening in this country. We are taking situations that are very real and potentially very real and heightening them on a level and confining them to a very specific time period. And the worst of all possible things are going to happen. And that's our show. So in the context of that, my character believes that in a sense of urgency, and this information has to be procured, and otherwise in 10 minutes, millions of people are going to die. Yeah, he's going to do everything he can. Do I personally believe that the police or any of these other legal agencies that are working for this government should be entitled to interrogate people and do the things that I do on the show? No, I do not.
What have you wanted to do you couldn't do?
Quit.
Go home. This is easy. I mean, no, it's not easy.
It's not easy.
What's hard about it, though? Is it believability? Is it...
No, this show is harder than any other show to story, Charlie, because there's about 6 or 7 moving parts that have to always kind of be juggled together, and when you are trying to tell an hour episode and have a believability factor of this hour, this story is going to be told. You've got 7 moving parts, you've got a real-time element, you've got to travel people from point A to point B so you can have your story move. It's a Rubik's Cube, trying to constantly logistically make it work.
Yeah, I mean, this 24 hours began at 8 a.m. It began at midnight, I think, a season or 2 ago.
That was a production consideration. We wanted the longer days to be shot during the summer and the shorter days to be shot during the winter. So that's why we did that.
See, that's what you learn.
Yeah.
When you look
Took us 3 years to figure that out.
Were you a reluctant convert to the idea of a real-time show?
I still am, actually.
Really? You haven't bought it yet?
Joel called me up 5 years ago, I guess it was now.
6 years ago, Bob.
Yeah, and said, I have this idea for the framework, 24 episodes,